GM, y'all. What's up? What's good? Welcome to Behind the Avatar. I got with me a man, the myth, the legend, Joseph Madding. Joseph. I don't know which one do you prefer to go by?
I used to tell people all the time that I didn't care, but I took a course last year, recent, that was all about like allowing people to stay true to themselves. So in order to get people to not tell me that your name is Jake when it's Jacoby or something, I prefer that people call me Joseph.
Okay, good. Hey, I'm glad I asked then. Good to know. And I think that's a good thing to live by is be true to yourself and whatever you prefer, you tell people and
Yeah.
then hopefully they respect that and and follow suit. Uh, so
Yeah.
so hopefully
Yeah.
I don't catch. I don't think I've ever like thought of you as Joe. I always in my head for whatever reason, I don't know if it's just from being on Twitter most of my time, but I always think of people with their Twitter handles. Um,
Absolutely.
so like a lot of times when I see you on screen and stuff, I'm, oh that's the Vision X, and it's just like that's just like
Yeah.
what pops into my head with a lot of people, even though I know a lot of people by first names. It's just
Mhm.
that weird. I don't know. Is it pseudonyms or whatever people call them?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I actually did the same thing with TNYC. It was like I see all these
Yeah.
people and they're like, "Hi, I'm Eric," and I'm like, "Yeah, but what's your real name?" Like, and they're like, "Oh, it's the electronic." I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah." Like,
That's
all right,
that's
yeah,
that's such a common thing now, especially with all the pseudonyms that are floating around. Like I'm in Austin, and in Austin we have a coffee meetup that we go to once a week. I actually just got back from it, and um, it's interesting when you meet new people there because usually people in real life introduce themselves with their real their real name, and then it's like,
yeah,
okay, but who are you on Twitter? Because I probably know you, I just don't know your real name
yeah,
or your face. So
yeah,
yeah, it's a fun thing, and that's kind of why I wanted to start doing this show is just to allow people to put a face with a name and then get to know people, the real person behind the avatar, if you will, or the profile
yeah,
picture, because a lot of people, I mean, obviously you're an exception to the rule, but a lot of people don't show their faces where you are using your actual face as your profile picture, and your face is all over the internet, as we all
sure.
know, from you streaming with the sandbox and everything. But what up, people in the chat? I see a few people chiming in. Um, what up, Polyvoxel? Thanks for tuning in for the I'm thinking the first time. Yeah, thanks for the follow, everyone. Appreciate you guys for being here. Vvox, Hodl Hilda, White. Always butcher your name. Wykion.
Oh, that one. Okay, I actually had to ask this on our official live stream as well. So it's like Spanish, like E, E,
E
like this and that, right? So the Y is so it's Ikion.
Ekion. Okay.
Yeah,
I might
yeah,
actually not butcher that anymore now that I got the official walkthrough of it. So okay, Ekion. Well,
yeah.
welcome Ekion. He's got some good emojis of you in the chat there. But yeah, so let's just kind of dive in. I like to always start like I assume a lot of people tuning in right now and probably catching the replay already know who you are. But if you want to just give us a quick little rundown, maybe not the
Sure.
full origin story, but just a quick
Okay.
little
Yeah.
introduction
Yeah.
of,
Yeah.
of yourself, and then we'll go from there.
So I'm Joseph Madding. I am the 5 days a week face of the Sandbox Good Morning, Afternoon, Evening show. I've been streaming for the Sandbox since mid 2020 or so, and hopefully I've helped a whole bunch of you who are watching learn something about the Sandbox game or got you into the ecosystem in one way or another. Maybe I helped you with a question, but that's what I do. Answer everything. I'm expected to know everything, and I actually got one up on Seb this week, yesterday, having to know everything because we had some guy come in and do a presentation of what are NFTs. We did a little 20 question quiz at the end, and I got third place, kicking Seb out of the top. So felt pretty good.
Flex,
Yeah,
flex on him.
yeah,
That's awesome. So you are kind of the face, one of the many faces of the
Sure.
sandbox. Obviously, there are other main faces as well that people know and love. But so you've been streaming for the sandbox. You said mid 2020, about, yeah.
Yeah, about August-ish, something like. Well, that's actually it was a bit before that, but August was when we really kicked it off because of the launch of the Sand token.
Uh huh.
So, and then before that, I was Alex's producer for his show, meaning that Alex was trying to show you guys how to build things in the game maker,
Yep.
and I was in the chat, and I'm like, you guys were asking questions from the community. So I would be answering those questions in the chat, and I call up Alex, and I'm like, I got to get in on a call with you so that I can just say it out loud because there came too many people asking too many questions. Good way, and it just went wild. So we got in on those much earlier than that, but I don't even have a date.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's awesome. I do remember watching some of those shows, and probably some of the asking some of the questions that you were
Sure.
having to help field. What how'd you fall into helping Alex? Are you guys friends of past, or I guess just the
Yeah,
question,
no,
how'd
no.
you fall into
So
that?
yeah. That again, that's kind of. So I liked the sandbox game. I was just a guy, right? Just a dude on the internet. And I'm looking at stuff on, I think, the Bitcoin Talk forum. Somebody was like, the sandbox, it's a metaverse. That term like doesn't exist at the time. And so we're all like, yo, well, what does that even mean? But I jump into the Discord. I'm on the Discord. I see somebody says that Alex is live. So I'm watching live and I'm looking at the product because I was like a buyer at the time, right? Um, it was the second ever land sale, and Alex was already streaming. And Alex ends up like the only reason Alex was even streaming was because somebody else was supposed to stream. This guy we were gonna pay. Like I wasn't part of the sandbox yet, but
Yeah.
this guy from the sand, they were gonna pay a guy to come stream, and the guy just flaked. He never showed, and so Alex was streaming. He's just the lead artist, right? That role didn't even exist back. So he's just in there kind of winging it, and people start asking hard technical questions about Ethereum. That stuff, like I didn't really know, but I knew the answer, the right answer for that particular question because I was researching about the sandbox and like digging through the white paper really hard. So I was just like kind of copy pasting stuff from the white paper to tell people like the answer to their
Uh-huh.
question. After the second stream in a row, like that I had done that for Alex, which were only Saturdays at the time, I was like, hey, can I join your call? Because, people are asking. And he was like, yeah, like he doesn't know me. I don't know him. I just DM'd him. Everybody, like, it was organic. He saw me in the Discord chat, like blowing it up with answers. And the community manager lead, who's still the lead now, named Amy or Aminata, she saw me doing it too. And, a couple weeks later, they were like, you want to be in charge of all the ambassador stuff? And so still doing that today. Yeah. It was just doing it. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's one thing I really do love about where we are in this space. Like, as early as we are, like it is that accessible where you, if you are engaging and interacting and helping, and you can reach out to, like you said, you just DM'd Alex, and you'll get a response back, and you can even do that with like founders of very successful big projects right now, and it won't be like that forever. Like I can't imagine that it'll stay that way. But how it is right now, it's awesome because it's giving people that are genuinely passionate about this space an opportunity, to, I mean, drastically, like I don't know, and you can let us know more about your past before this if you'd like, but I don't know where you came from before this, but like to just like be able to drastically change the trajectory of a lot of people's lives by getting into this space early on, and finding their lane, and then just sticking in that lane, and then eventually that usually grows and expands into something more and more. And yeah, I just think it's such a great place for anyone that is passionate and excited about the future of what all this technology can do, like interacting in discords and on Twitter and in getting into people's DMs is it's a great idea right now. So
Yeah, and I think to the point that you made, like asking if it was still doable, right? We just got out of NFT NYC, and in that space, I talked about it on the show last night that like it was wild to see how big the sandbox is now. But I also genuinely do feel like it is still really early. Like everybody is still reachable, accessible. Like, we're seeing the people who were able to get there. We're just chatting. I would prefer to hang out with the developers inside the space, people who just like I can remember generally like when they came into the stream and just started asking questions. So it is something that you can definitely just reach out and kind of touch those CEOs that are out there, and say, hey, I'm interested. I know this. Blockchain coding training for that. There's no like there are a few college courses, but there's no college for that. You
yeah,
just gotta like go do it and and then get into it. And Maddox of Fury is in your chat asking like a regular Joe like me. Very nice. You used the little avatar there. I could one day be sitting in your chair. Absolutely. There's no reason not to. Like the expansion of like need for developers, need for designers is huge. So yeah, absolutely.
yeah, the opportunity is, and I feel like we, when you're in the space deep in the weeds, and you can start to feel like you're not early, but we all
Mm-hmm.
still are very early, and the opportunity is still there for all of us, even. And I have to remind myself about that all the time too, is like, even if it does feel like you maybe you missed your opportunity, or you definitely didn't miss
Mm-hmm.
your opportunity, or whatever you're feeling, like there's so much more that's coming, and there's so much more growth that's going to happen, that as long as you stick with what you're doing, you're gonna find your lane, and find what you're happiest doing in this world that is developing. So, and that's just, and I'm just like thinking of just the sandbox when I'm saying that, but like there's so much opportunity outside of just the sandbox, where like there's so many different things that you could find that you really do love to do, and you could turn that into a full-time gig eventually, if you keep at it, and continue, especially continue through the bear market, because as we all know, we've kind of entered into a longer bear than a lot of us are probably used to, unless you've been here since the early days. I know um, I I
Yeah.
was I was kind of here before the first actual bear, but I really wasn't that heavily invested into anything, and just kind of forgot about it back in like 2017, 2018. But then,
Sure.
but now it does kind of feel like we've entered into another bearish era, and who knows how long
Sure.
it'll last. But that shouldn't discourage you, or really matter, in my opinion. Everyone that's been building, like the sandbox and all the big projects, they're going to continue to build through whatever ups and downs the market sees. So if you're interested in being an actual builder, and not just
Mhm.
somebody that day trades, um, the the market
Yeah.
shouldn't really matter to you, is,
Yeah.
I guess, what I'm
Absolutely.
kind of trying to get at. But and what I guess, kind of, what's your feeling of the market, and where we're at right now, and just the whole sentiment around all of that.
So there is a guy that you should be following if you just want to track overall market. I think their username on Twitter is at @BInCrypto, but his name is Benjamin. He has a YouTube analytics thing that he does regularly, long form analytics for Bitcoin, ETH, all sorts of stuff called Into the Cryptoverse. And I've been following them since before I had any money. That makes sense, you know. Uh, and the critical thing that he does is not be biased, right? He's very like platform agnostic, just says like, okay, where's ADA going? Where's ETH going? Where's it been? And a lot of these are brand new, right? Like relatively speaking,
Right.
compared to Bitcoin, compared to other techs. And then but the important thing that he does that I follow is that he talks about possibles for the high highs, right? Cool, everybody's happy, but he talks about high lows all the. So like the bottom historically has been right, and
Yep.
like all going all the way back to when it's $1 for a Bitcoin. He's like, here's where the bottoms are, and he'll show you like the rainbow chart, right? And like you very rarely fall out of this rainbow chart, but he's always like adjusting the math as well to like account for like the long term what market is where. And he said when I was following 28 talking about projections and like he follows this thing called lengthening cycle theory, right, where each one had almost a proportionate like extension of time before it hit its new high. And he was like, back then 2023 2024, talking about that being like the timeline for the new high. And so like I look at where it is now, and then also you look at kind of historical time. And again, just looking at bottoms, like 2016 is when I got in. I mined during the 2017 hype because I had no cash. I was doing crypto mining of a brand new currency that is now basically dead. But I mined it and I earned like $700 mining. And then I traded that up into about 15,000, and then eventually traded that up in this cycle to a high of like 440K.
Well done.
Yeah, well, cool, right?
Yeah.
But it a lot of that comes from building and then also taking like changing my mindset about halfway through this cycle where I don't operate in a dollar's cost basis at all, right? Like if I'm going to buy a thing and it costs me a gas fee of 0.1 ETH, then I'm calculating things in ETH. How do I get more ETHs? Not how do I get more dollar? So, and I'm still doing that now, but also I made my mistake. Like, I don't know if you've heard this story or not, but I've told it on the official live stream a few times. I used to have 1, 2, 3, 5, I think 5 plus random assorted lands, 5 small estate in the sandbox game, the 3x3, right?
Yep.
And at peak, locally, those were I had sold those small estates at a profit. Each one I sold at 3 ETH, right? Made good amount of money. It felt good. Wanted to collect more ETH. But at peak in this cycle, more recently, as people are starting to see the product be built and things are working out, each individual land was selling for 5 ETH.
Right.
Right. So I end up shorting myself a lot of money on that. Right.
And
but
that's when ETH is high too.
Yeah. So
but
like I did the math and it was like you can't dwell on this, right? But it was like I shorted myself like $1 million.
Yeah.
Just land. Before that, even I had about 330,000 Phantom, which again at peak was like $8 a piece. But I sold them when they rose from 2 cents to 10 cents because I was just like, that's a ridiculous gain. That's 5x right there.
Right.
Like I gotta take my wins here. And so but the important thing to look at when you look at that is just like, you do have to be smart. You have to take your profits and make sure that you at least break even. But also, on the other hand, you can hold some extra that is beyond your profits and just like now it's free money. So screw it, let it set forever and see what happens. So anyway, changed a little bit from there. If I would have sold those things at peak, I'd have about $3 or $4 million right now. I wouldn't have to care about anything. You know what I mean? But such is life. I'd still be doing this though, right? I'd still be doing these live streams because it's a lot of fun building, working with you guys, chatting with people all the time, and helping people onboard into that ecosystem that is changing. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's good insight, and I think one thing that stuck out to me when you were talking through all that is like it's easy, and I think we all do it. We all look back and look at, oh, what could have been if I would have held on
Yeah.
another couple months, and then sold, or another couple days sometimes. It depends
Yeah.
on what we're talking about. But as long as you sold when you needed to sell, and you made or didn't make profits, but you sold for whatever reason, like there's always a
Yeah.
reason behind your selling. So
Hmm.
you can't really look back and regret it. Like for example, I always tell this story. Like I've been paying attention to NFTs very closely since 2020. And like, so I watched like Bored Apes come out, and I didn't get what Bored Apes were at that time at all. Like I was like, I'm not gonna buy these
Yeah.
silly
Yeah.
little JPEGs of funny looking monkeys.
Yeah.
But like, if I would have, I always, this is the example I'm getting at. If I would have, there's almost no chance that I would have held on to them to the all-time high of 100 or whatever the
Yeah.
floor.
Yeah.
Like there's just like
Right.
the conviction you have to, and there are people that did do that, but like the conviction you have to have on something to hold on through. I don't, what is, even whenever it got to like 50th, like that's a huge X amount of
Yeah.
gains. Like I
Yeah.
know I know for a fact I would have been selling around then. And but I probably, like looking back on it, it's like if I would have minted when I thought about minting, like I probably would have sold when they hit 1 ETH. Like, to be
Right.
honest,
Yeah.
like
No,
because
yeah,
at
absolutely.
that time no one understood or had any
Yeah.
idea where any of this was going. And it's just, it's one of those things that, and same with land. Like you made out great selling your estates for 3 ETH,
Right.
but but
But yeah, no,
you,
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Like so, it's funny that you mentioned the Bored Apes, right? Because up to a couple of weeks had some, not Bored Apes, but the mutants, right?
uh-huh,
Because I did kind of hedge my bet on them, and I came in to those when they did the mutants. The minting I'd already finished, right? But I was like, oh, this is Yuga Labs. They don't mess, right? Like I got to get them. So I go in and I buy one. The first one that I got was like 3.5 ETH, and I thought it was ugly as sin, right? And I was like,
yep.
eventually, yeah, like because the mutants are ugly, like oh, they're hideous,
But
right? But I knew what the value was and how much they kicked back to the community, right? Um, and so I after I bought the one, I was like, okay, I'm gonna have conviction with this one, but then I liked another one's style. So I end up selling that one and buying another one for an additional ETH. So it's like 4.5 ETH something for this one that had a little captain's hat on because I don't know, I liked it, right?
yep.
And it had like an ugly little dress thing as well, but I was like, whatever, it doesn't got a captain's hat, right? And then some time goes, I don't know, a couple of months, and the average price on these is now like 10 ETH or something. That minimum, rather, the floor was like 10 ETH, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh wow, I'm way up on this one. I'm now doubled on this one, and so I get another one. Like I'm like, I only have about 20 ETH at this total like liquidity, which is a ton of money, right? Like it's a ton. But like in my brain, I'm like, okay, but I see another one that's got a captain's hat and it's got like these shades on or whatever. And I was like, I really like this one. So I buy the second one for like 15 ETH, right? And like, why would I do this? I don't know. It's just a conviction play.
Yep.
And it's just up only at the time. And the whole market's going up and everybody's hyping happy. So I'm like, sure, whatever. But the weird thing, the wild thing is like, I don't think I sold these recently, like I said, and I don't think I'm going to buy them again because there has been, in my opinion, a significant culture shift, not from the founders of the company, but from the community within.
Uh-huh.
Because I sold those, and when I buy or sell significant buys or sales, I do tell Twitter so
Right.
that like whether it's a miss or not, I tell Twitter. I'll be like, yeah, I just lost like when I talked a bit about having that like 440K at peak, right? Well now like I was lucky enough to have bought a car, but the rest of that money is now down to like 40,000.
Yep.
shit out, right? Like it's gone, right?
Yeah.
But also, I'm holding it as Ether, I'm holding it as USDC sometimes, depending on what's going on in the market. Like I had a big miss because I didn't have sand while we were at NFT NYC, and that like doubled
I
there.
know. I was looking at sand during NFT NYC, and I was like, it was like 70
Yeah,
cents, and
yeah,
I want to buy more of it, but I
yeah.
just
And
don't
then
know.
like
And I was like, should I?
I left and it was $1.30, right? And I
Yeah.
was just like, I'm over there doing that work and like working with people, and like we clearly have one of the best, if not the best show at NFT NYC, period. And I'm not in that, right? And I was like, so I get home and I was like, well, I can I curse?
Yeah, absolutely. I do all the
Okay,
time.
so yeah, so I was like, well, I fucked up, and I just bought. I was like 100 all in on sand because like I see what we're doing and where we're going,
Uh-huh.
and I know what we are doing, what we have been doing. But then like at that show, there was something that clicked in my head that made me realize that we aren't the 2020 sandbox joined anymore, right? Like I
Mm-hmm.
see the operation in the background and like we're constantly doing the work and whatever. But this now, that show made me realize that we are one of the biggest in the space, period.
True.
And like we just need more and more and more builders to come in and work with more and more and more partners. And it's getting exponential at this point. So yeah, I sold out their NFT right before NFT NYC, and there were like a decent number of people who got mad at me actively on Twitter, like people who were like, "You're not going to make it, right?" and all
Sure.
these things. And I was like, "Okay, guy, I spent like 4 ETH on this one and sold it for 20." Uh,
I,
and that other one I sold at a profit, and all these other side lands I had also sold at a profit. And I was like, so where am I not going to make? Right. And
I
I
feel
was
like
like,
I've
I hope
already
you
made it.
do well. Yeah, exactly. Like,
Yeah.
so you have to do that. When I think about buying new NFTs, if I'm going to buy something new that's cheap, I would tend to buy three, right?
Yep.
One, so that you can sell the first one to break even.
Mm-hmm.
And now you have two that are just money. And then you can sell the second one later when it's like a ridiculous price where you're like, how the hell did it ever get here? And hold on to the third one forever because it's also just free money. And then you got like flex for your entire life,
Right.
you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's absolutely the same trading strategy that I tell everyone is buy in threes if you can afford it, because like you said,
Mm-hmm.
you want to be able to flip that first one to just get out ahead, and then like you said, have another one for whenever it does something crazy, if it ever does, and then you have that third one because you either like it, or if it does something like Bored Apes did, maybe then you sell that one
Yeah.
too. And
Yeah, like no offense, like I mean Alex building the Wizzyverse, right? But if a Wizzy is worth a house, I'm gonna sell my Wizzy.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, and maybe that is something that happens one day. But if again, like I'm not so emotionally attached to any asset that I am not going to do what's best for me and my family either. You know,
right.
so like we just continue to do the work so that you can then get on to the next hype train, whatever that is. You know, and yeah, I like to see honestly those smaller projects that build get something real going. Like I think Bored Apes was super hype, but also is real in terms
Mm-hmm.
of a company, right? But the smaller projects that become real, like I missed Gutter Cat.
Same.
They were a thing where it was like I looked at those and I was like, those are kind of ugly. Again, I did that again,
I
right?
bought.
Those are kind of ugly and they're unproven. And who are you? And like, I remember Blaze Games being like, get Gutter Cats, you dummy, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I was like, maybe soon. And then
yeah.
it was like, every time the price went up, I'd be like, I guess I missed the boat. Yeah.
Yep.
But then it just keeps going up. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm an idiot, I guess. There it is.
Yeah. No, I feel that. I mean, I've people should not look to me for trading advice because I've like I said, I've been around, I've been paying attention, I've been trying to trade,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like
Mm-hmm.
well, on a side note, I think what I've learned is that yes, you can have fun and you can try and trade with the hype, but you should really be investing in your big like full conviction plays. Like for me, I'm an idiot. Like why don't I have 20 sandbox lands? And because like I've
Yeah.
known about sandbox since early days, and like and I don't have a crap ton of sand either, and it's
Mhm.
like but I've had so much conviction. I've built a whole brand and company around what the sandbox is doing. Yet I, instead of just investing heavily into that high conviction play, I go and I try and find all the other next Bored Ape projects, and it's like no, like you can do that, and you can have fun if you have
Yeah.
the extra money to do that. But first and
Right.
foremost, I think it's important to put some of your money into those ones that you really do have the high conviction on. And I forget what the other point I was gonna make when I was before I got onto that tangent, but yeah, like it's just trading NFTs. Oh, I don't think this was the point, but one thing that I thought of when you were talking is that you really do have to make sure that you don't get emotionally attached to your NFTs, because um I mean there's multiple reasons for that, but one of the biggest things that I've learned, and I just want to throw this, I don't know how this turned into a NFT trading conversation, but I'm here for it. I love
Yeah.
chatting, and it's
Yeah.
fun to like when like I don't it's like I don't know, it's just fun to chat about whatever comes up. So that's what we're gonna talk about. But uh, uh, mine went blank. Oh, emotionally attached to NFTs. Like if it is a project that you are super excited about and you do have a lot of
Mhm.
conviction in, still, this is the thing that I've learned. Don't have so much emotional attachment to them that you don't sell at their peaks, because just like any currency or anything, they're going to go up and down. And if you do have that high conviction, you can still be selling whenever they hit their all-time highs, and then buying back
Mhm.
in whenever they dip, and then selling again whenever they hit some highs again. And that's one thing that I've learned to do now. But like if I was
Sure.
doing that early on, I would be in a much better position. So that's just something that popped in my head that I think is a good
Yeah.
tip for
No,
people that are looking at it.
and I think that's interesting that you talk about like it, so the way that I look at that is like for the most part in almost every single situation when I have decided to sell, that's it, it's over, right? Like I that's why I talk about that like rule of threes sort of buying of NFTs so that
Mm-hmm.
you can sell to make your money and then hold on to a thing and just keep it in your collection forever and forget about it, right? Because for me, if I have decided to sell out of a project and I ever look back 3 months, 6 months later, and it's doubled, right? Like I don't want to do that thing where I'm like I'm disappointed and I missed this, right?
Uh-huh.
Like the and I learned this the first time from the AVE token. I don't know if you've heard of
Yeah.
AAVE,
Yep.
but right, like they're a pretty big platform for like trading and leverage, but exclusively in crypto. Uh, and I had shares of AVE tokens before they merged them like 1 to 100 or like 100 to 1 or whatever um, at like 20 cents. And they merged them. So that's now like $20. And then that exploded to being like 400, right?
Yep.
I sold it at about $100 level. And, you know, but you look back and that's the problem. You look back and you go like,
Yeah.
God, why did I do this? I'm an idiot. And you stress yourself out for something that you cannot change because you go back in at that $200 level. What happens? Well, it just tanked. And you're like, well, I'm an idiot. I lost half my profits, right? So, like, if you're going to take profits, in my opinion, take them
And
and
just
go do more research and like find that next conviction play. That's where I'm at and everybody's going to have a different style. It's if you know a thing is going to generally consistently go up, then you could do what you were talking about, right? Where you buy at certain
true.
levels and wait for a hype peak and rebuy. But you
Uh-huh.
also have to understand that you're going to lose a percentage of your stuff. If you think that it's just going to go up only forever,
True.
then I think there's no reason to not just keep it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
No, yeah. I guess I feel both sides of that for sure. I mean, it's hard to, I don't
you
know.
can never know, right?
Yeah,
You can
yeah,
never know.
you really can't ever know.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that like you could get burnt at any moment doing my strategy where it's like, oh, it's gonna keep going up and down and up and down, and then it just goes down, 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 down. And
Right, right.
you're like,
Yeah, the
oh,
one
damn
time
it.
you buy it, it goes down only, and the one time you don't buy it, it's up only, right?
Yep.
So like that's the thing. It's like you just for me, you just have to go like, okay, I'm in the money on this, and I've sold half of what I have or whatever. I've got this other half. Like when I bought the Project Flower Girls, I did that, where I bought 12 of them like on day one because I was just like, this is beautiful. It looks like nothing I've ever seen. It's a women-led project, and the only one that had existed at that point was World of Women, uh, and it didn't look like them either, and it did well for what it was. I got them all at a marginal cost, and then they blew up to being like an ETH a piece. They issued like a ton of rewards just for having them. And it was really great. And I still have one or two of those in my profile now after selling and making a bunch off of this, right? But I had the ability to just sit on these other ones forever and continue to get these beautiful pieces of art. This is wall worthy, right? It's not like a thing that you just keep digital because it's a crazy ape junior or whatever, right? Like it's not that buy. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's something that too that I go back and forth on. It's like part of me always wants to be buying things that I'd be okay with having and being able to put up on my wall if it does go to zero. And then other times I find myself buying what the fuck goblin whatever's,
Yeah.
and being like, okay, I'm definitely never going to put that on my wall if it goes to zero. So
Yeah.
it's one of those. It's such a, I don't know, this whole, I don't know, this whole world that we are living through right now is such an interesting experience, and just like um observing like human behavior, and it's just interesting, and it's something that obviously I think it should be obvious to everyone that nobody really knows what they're doing. like
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's a lot of guessing. A lot of the people that are very successful in this space have spread their money out so wide that they do hit the big ones occasionally, and
Yeah.
that's what
Mhm.
continues to fund their spreading of their wealth out into all of these. But
Yeah.
it's also a very, and I hope everyone understand that it is a very risky game to be playing. So do not be doing what we're talking about doing if you don't have
Right.
have the money to lose, because there is always that potential. And even with the markets being low, like obviously now we're losing less US dollars, if you will, but like at the same time, if you're thinking long term, you're still losing a lot. uh,
Yeah.
I don't know, it's such a that's such a weird dynamic that um and I think you were kind of hitting on it earlier on, and maybe we can circle back to it. Like, how do you think about, you're saying you think about ETH, um, in ETH and not in US dollar. And I think a lot of us do that naturally for some reason. And I don't know if it's like our like gaming side of us that is used to having like in-game currencies, and we just think of ETH as another like in-game
Yeah.
currency or whatever. But
Sure.
it's always interesting to me, like like one concept that I still don't quite understand is like whenever ETH goes down in the market, NFT prices also go down. And it seems counterintuitive to me, because it would be, because if you're
Yeah.
thinking of it in US dollars, like if you think your NFT was worth 1,000 US dollars and then ETH goes down, you'd think the price would go up to match what you thought it was worth, but it always seems to
Right.
follow. And I guess
Well,
maybe.
okay. So I can explain this because the way that I track like crypto moves and stuff. So I look off to my right because I have four monitors, right?
Yeah.
There's this is always on a screen for me. But usually during the daytime, about this, if I look over this way, I don't know if you could see me looking, but I
Yeah.
got a big ass TV back there, right? And I play Bloomberg all day.
Sure.
So I've got like I look over, I see ETH took a dip or Bitcoin took a dip. I look over here. I'm like, oh, somebody in the U.S. Federal Reserve made an announcement that made the Dow Jones drop 1%, Bitcoin dropped 2%, ETH dropped 4%, and my NFTs dropped 10%. And you think, like, why do they do that? Because each one of those sequential levels is younger than the other. And typically, those younger assets are considered risky.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So if you're like looking at the Dow Jones going down and you're like, oh, well, like that's on disc, one group of people might think like, well, where do I have other money? Right. So I want to go buy more Dow Jones because it's down. You're going to sell your NFT into ETH, sell that ETH into dollars, and put the dollars in the traditional stock market because it's down on discount, right? Or you could look at it even more and you could go, oh my God, we're in a recession, right?
Yep.
And you're panicked and you're on panic. Where's the safe in a recession? It's buying a dollar, right? And I'm putting it that way on purpose. You're not selling other things. You're buying dollars, right? It makes dollars worth more and everything else worth less relatively. But you know, so there's a whole big box I could open up with that because I know like macroeconomics is fun for me. I'm weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, like if you consider like inflation and you're like, oh, well, that's 7%. Some people will say inflation is up, but that's just the dollars worth 7% less. So when I think about something I want to buy, it's what has lost less money than 7%, right? Housing is up relative to the dollar. But if it's not up more than 7%, you don't actually make new money because you can make 7% more dollars. They're worth the same as last year's dollar. So if housing is up 10%, you made a good choice. You made a good investment. Now you're becoming a rich person, right? And so like when Bored Apes comes out and it blows up 10,000, 100,000%, you're like, well, hell yeah, this is I'm rich now, you know?
Yep.
But you know, so when you make those plays, if you think about it long term, you think about it on a yearly scale, you're just looking at, well, what went up more than 7% this year? That was a smart choice to do. Even if it's down right now 40 or 50% off of its high, as long as it's up at the end of the day more than 7%, you did a good job. So
that's interesting. That's it's one thing that and maybe that's part of the reason why I definitely shouldn't be looked at as somebody that you should take trading advice from. But I've never really like understood. I've never been an investor with like stocks or like this is literally the first time I've ever like dabbled with with investing my money in anything but like a high yield savings account. So like it's something and I feel like high yield savings accounts are nothing. Now that I'm realizing.
Now they're not. No, but well that's another thing too. Actually, my wife ended up doing that where she pulled out of high yield savings about mid-year and like, you know, we can look at it in all sorts of different ways. Right now, that might not have been the best play based on the timeline that she did, but in the long term, it's going to be a good play because she was looking at it. And when the Federal Reserve changes interest rates, they try to incentivize certain ideas, right? But when they make those decisions, banks have to refocus. So her high yield savings was like 2% at a certain point. She looked at it and it was at like 0.1%. And then she's like, well, why the hell am I even putting it here, right? If you think about a high yield savings, 0.1%, you're making 0.1%, but the dollar is 7% less value. So you actually lost 6.9% of your money. Even if you had the same amount of dollars in the bank, you lost 6.9% of your buying. So and the Fed does that on purpose so that you'll spend your money, right? Because now if you need to get the economy rolling, they're going to make, like, you got to spend your money so that it's not worth it. That's why inflation exists at all at like usually a 2% target. It's just to keep people not like if it was a Bitcoin, if it was an ETH, then people would just stuff it under their mattress and it would become worth more next year. Right. But they want to see money move in the system. So yeah, it's a wild thing to think about, but that's how my brain works all the time.
Yeah. No, that's probably very beneficial for your monies, to be thinking that way.
It is now, but like way back to your earlier mention about like kind of Joe's life history, I didn't even graduate high school. Like,
Sure.
I got a GED, you know,
Yeah.
and then we're just like, I'm gonna just do stuff. And if it's freaked out my wife for our entire life pretty much, because I'm like, I've decided that I'm gonna quit this stable job and I go work. I worked for like a movie theater company building arcades for them, right? And she was like, why would you do that? And I'm like, whatever, let's try something new, right?
Right.
Like, or coming into this space being like, I'm quitting all the jobs and I'm gonna go live stream for a fake internet money company, right? And she's like, I don't understand it, but it's worked out so far, you know.
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
so yeah, yeah.
No, I can definitely relate with that. I I have a tendency to do a similar thing of going all in on random things that maybe sound random to most people, but I have faith on, and this space was one of those as well, where I was like, I think I need to go all in on this, and it definitely is risky, and right now it's an interesting situation, but there's always other things that you can find to supplement if you need to. At least
Hmm.
that's always my belief. There's always money to be made. You just got to find where to be making
Yeah,
it at. Um,
yeah.
let's do just because it just popped in my head, and I don't know. I feel like it's almost crazy that we haven't talked about this yet. Let's do a hard segue away from what we have been talking about to NFT NYC. Like
Sure.
give us a
Yeah.
little something of like what was some of the highlights for you during the how long were you even there?
Okay. So we were there for a 5 day period,
Okay.
but the actual event is three formal. There's a
Okay.
VIP day, but we didn't do that because we had as the sandbox game rented out the Gotham Hall. My highlight, though, just to hit the question where I talk about all the other stuff,
Yeah.
was honestly just seeing people whose usernames I recognize. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
like everybody who was there from the community, and then also seeing the level of like second and third level companies, if that make like in terms of like sandbox, right? And then like who's making the sandbox work. And you've got like these companies that are developers in here, and then you've got companies that are like onboarding partners, just like on their own, independently. These companies are bringing these things in, where the sandbox doesn't even have to do that anymore.
Uh-huh.
Somebody talked to me about can't mention the details, but a former music star that is no longer with us, their estate, they were like, yeah, I just made a deal, and so we're going to bring them onto the platform, right?
Uh-huh.
And that one deal was so big that like I literally went, that person has made my favorite. Like that, you
Yeah.
know. Uh, but it was just a wild thing. Like I see Total Hills in the chat here. Hill was there with us. Seeing the community step up. Like when the whole live stream team was there, right? So there was no Sandbox official live stream while we were there. And then I'm seeing the community step up, like Maddox, who is here in the chat, like
Yeah.
blowing us up here. And I know we saw, gosh, my brain just did a brain fart. Um, King of Crypto was streaming the whole time
Yep.
as well.
Yep.
But like we're seeing these people step up in a way that like the demand is there. So like let's fill that space, and the community is behind them 100%. But also they're helping provide some of those answers to that question, right? Like Maddox was specifically like, "What are you guys doing there?" Like anybody that they could get on the live stream, what's happening today, what's happening tomorrow, right? But the thing that also kind of blew my mind was I talked about having been here since 2020. It was early 2020 when I joined, just from the community side. Like February was that second land sale, and I talked about this on our live stream last night. But the scale that has grown for the sandbox game, like I still see us as this like tiny company.
Mm-hmm.
I know consciously that there are 300 people who work here all around the globe. I know consciously that there are these studios like Hermit Crab
Hermit Crab.
that created the POC
POC, yeah.
experiences and the 10K project, right? that are, there's like 8K of calling it generic. And I see them come up. But when it really hit me, the first night we had Steve Aoki there, right?
Yep.
Steve Aoki did the party with our promotion where we cross with Playboy. The all day during the day, right? Andy Milonakis is like a pretty well known, like, I mean, they're like D-list or whatever at this point, but also they've had television shows on Comedy Central or whatever, right? Like,
I used to love Andy.
yeah, and like Andy's great, really funny. There was a moment there where like the room was pretty quiet, and Andy like looks over at like the area where we are standing, and he's like, "Hey, you guys over there," and like nobody's, and he's like, "Shut the fuck up. We're trying to have some panels here. I need you to just shut the fuck up." And like he said it like 6 times. He's like, "Come on, I told you to," and like until everybody was laughing in the room or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And it was like it was good to have them as the host. So like super happy to see that. But Maddox is talking about Tiesto was day 2, and day 4 having Madonna, and like after Tiesto and before Madonna, it had hit me that the Sandbox game on like just no tickets were sold as a reward to landowners that were there, just gave 2 world-class concerts.
Right. Yeah.
Like it's free. Just show up. Free alcohol, whatever, like during the daytime, free water, Coca-Cola, whatever is there. And then we go to the Madonna show, and like that's huge in a lot of different. My wife had like an existential crisis because she loves to watch RuPaul's Drag Race show on VH1. There were a total of 7 people who had won or been in the top 2 of that like competition over its like 13 season run.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, so we're talking about the absolute best in that industry in the world.
Yep.
While the Sandbox with World of Women kicked off Pride Week in New York with Madonna.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like wild because, again, I was just like, I've been spending a couple of years just chilling, right? Like working with you guys, chatting and helping make the Sandbox game better and just answering the questions that you have all the time. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, now we've got 3 world-class concerts in a week happening just for free for landowner.
It is wild.
Insane.
It is wild to think that less than a couple of years ago, things did not feel anywhere near that level of I don't know if fame is the right word, but level of I don't know, fame. We'll use fame. Now after New York, we're like, damn, like Sandbox is really making moves. Like we all believed that Sandbox was doing cool things, but now it's like, holy shit, like they're making moves, and
absolutely. It like there was a legitimacy to the Sandbox. There was a legitimacy to the process. All the teams, all the builders out here who are like putting the work in. Like we were clearly going to build a great product, and like the partners were there, and the partners were going to want a great product, right? But this was kind of the moment when it hit me a little bit that like the partners that we have aren't just here to do some marketing, right? Like they're vested in the future. And I already knew that our community and our builders were vested in the future. We want to see this seed, and it's fantastic to see the number of people that were there that were like, seeing the faces behind the people of crypto, right? The Hermit Crab studio was part of our booth when we were there, and they're there like, oh, where are you guys based out of? I go, well, we're based out of LA, right? And I go over to the Index Games. I recognized their logo, right? And they were talking to me, and they were like, "Oh, Joseph, it's so great to see you," because they've seen me show or whatever. And like, that's also why that's a weird thing when people are like, "Oh, I'm happy to see you," right? Because I'm like, I feel like I know many of you guys just from like the way that we interact, like on the show, even if it is in text or we'll be in a call or whatever. But the Index Games, when I was like, yeah, I recognize your logo. Like I've seen some of the stuff you make, and like I'm loving what you're doing. They were like, really? You know what we're doing? And I was like, yeah, like of course. You know, like you guys make good stuff. But they came in from Hong Kong, right?
Oh,
And
sure.
like,
Yeah.
and they're a part of our booth. And then we've got another like group, and so like these teams from all around the world are building the main systems that make this work. And then as the sandbox, we would just have like one person there at a time at that booth. And so people could come in and they'd be like, what is the sandbox? Well, that's us. Now, after I've given you an example of these studios that come up, you want to talk to one, right? Because these guys helped the South China Morning Post, the largest publication in Southeast Asia, to make their presence in the metaverse, right?
Right.
And then they're like, what? And I'm like, there you go. Talk to these guys if you want to know how it really works, right?
Yep.
And yeah, so yeah, the whole experience was really eye-opening. But again, the best part of it was talking to you, right? It was talking to anybody that like was, they were like, oh, well, I can get on the Good Morning, Afternoon, Evening show. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Like, just let's send an email back and forth. Let's schedule a date when, or do you need to pre-record it because you live in Hong Kong and you can't be there live or whatever. Like, being able to build that and see that community and it was refreshing. It made me go like, okay, now I can take it to 11 and do like so much more. And it also, I posted this on Twitter, but I want to say that when we talked about the sand price, right?
Yep.
Well, the whole week I didn't look at the price of crypto, right? I didn't need that. It didn't matter. I wasn't trying to get the beat on the street from like what price crypto was. I just was doing the thing and it felt great, right? Like everybody that was out there, whether they were a tiny little studio that just had a round table and like a pull-up banner, it didn't matter. Everybody was hype, everybody was engaged, everybody was, making the future happen. And you come back and I'm like, it's a bull market.
Yeah.
No, it's not. Like it's a higher low, right?
Yep.
Like it's not a bull market. I don't care.
Yeah. No, that's saying something though, just in and of itself, that you were there at the event and the energy and everything that was going on there kept you so captivated and in the moment that you never felt the need to check what was going on with the market, and that's
right.
That's saying a lot, especially for for everyone that is 24/7 into this stuff. Like it's very easy to pull your phone out and just take a peek every 5 minutes, it feels like, but when you are at an in real life event like that, that's something special when it can really captivate and keep you engaged in the moment versus, like you said, pulling up your phone and checking things like that. So that's great to hear. I definitely wish I could have made it out to New York. It just didn't work out with scheduling and everything. But
you know what? It might have been better off there. So far as I've seen on my tweet stream, 50% of people came back sick. So.
Yeah. I was like, at least I'm healthy and I'm feeling good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that does seem to be the trend, and sometimes I wonder if it all is that everyone got it, or if people are just posting that because everyone else is.
I don't know.
But I'm not saying that anyone
No,
didn't get it, but yeah, sometimes I'm also like, this is interesting that many people. But at the same time,
okay, so here's another scope and scale thing, right? And why I don't think that it's unreasonable. That first night, I didn't stay for Steve Aoki, because before we got there, like my wife and I, along with Dizzy and D Electronics, like we're up in the VIP area, the landowner section, up inside our space, and it got too packed. Right, there are just too many bodies in there, and so I was like, okay, well, we're gonna go downstairs to it's a much larger area. I'm thinking it's not gonna be a big deal. As soon as we walk downstairs, there's so many people in the building that it is like, it's not standing room only. It's like almost touching someone room only. Right. So, and we got the numbers back because we were doing like a door count as people were coming in, and there were 15,000 registered people for NFT NYC. And that night, over 1,600 people came into our event.
Damn. I
Yeah.
didn't know that those are the
And
numbers.
yeah. So more than 10% of all of NFT NYC was at our show just on night one. So it was like 11:30, and I like we come downstairs and it was just it was so tight in there, it's so packed that I was just like, all right, I'm out.
I feel you
Like I
on
love
that.
everybody, but like I don't know. Yeah. And again, it was night one, right? And I haven't seen humans in 3 years basically, except for go to the store or do whatever.
Yep.
Right. And I was just kind of like, I'm not gonna get to like the 3 bars we have downstairs. I couldn't like walk to them if I wanted, be crunching through people. Like,
Yeah.
all right, see you later. Night two, we stayed for the whole thing, which ended up going long, and it was like 1 a.m. because like us and like the community builders that were there that I recognized, or like that, like we were pretty well by day two, very well engaged with each other. We all kind of knew where each other was. We just like locked down one table that was downstairs, like a standing table, just to make sure that there was space.
Right. Right. Yeah. A good
Yeah.
move. A veteran move.
Yeah. Yeah. Took
No.
1 day to figure that out.
No, that's wild though. I did not realize that you guys had that many people
Yeah.
at the event. So that's amazing. I
Yeah.
16,000. Like that's
Well, 1,600 showed up for our event.
1600.
15,000 was the total number of people at NFTNYC that were registered.
Oh yeah.
So that means,
I put
yeah,
an
so
extra
we
zero
pulled,
on it, but
yeah,
still.
yeah, yeah.
That's a lot of people, especially
But
like
still, yeah.
what is like I don't even know how big the Gotham thing, like obviously
It
you
was
just said
about
it was
10,000 square feet.
okay. Yeah, I mean
So,
you just
like,
said it was nuts,
a
but
person is taking up 9 square feet, and we've got 1,600 of us. You're like,
yeah.
well, you're out of space. If everybody was in there all at once, it
Yeah,
would have
yeah.
been like more than crunched. There's not enough room in the building. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was a wild time in a good way. Like, especially again considering the number of people that were like landowner, and the sandbox just being able to give that, like, that's real tangible utility. Like, we were giving away like jackets and hats and
Yep.
whatever, and like, no, it wasn't like a thing where we were like, oh, since you're a landowner you can come buy that. It was like, you're a landowner, you've already paid, you've earned this, we are here because of you, here's some swag, take it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, thank you.
No, that's awesome. I did see that the swag was being given out, and like just every like that really is the cool thing about NFTs is that you can drive utility like that into holding a token of whatever sort it is, holding land. And like it's just that's I mean obviously everyone here kind of gets that that's what's happening, and as
Right.
more and more people understand this concept and how uh, like token proof is a great example of being able to drive utility into your tokens. That's what you guys used, right? Was token
Yep.
proof? Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
actually know the founder. He's from Austin, and he goes to those coffee meetups that I mentioned. So
Nice.
I've been jiving with him since he was even like thinking of starting it. So it's been cool to see the progression of all of that too. But yeah, it's just we're definitely making strides forward as a whole with the NFT ecosystem, and
Mhm.
showing how things can be done, and Sandbox is definitely blazing the way forward with it all. So
Yeah.
we have hit over the hour mark, and I need to wrap things up. And I want to save your voice because I know you have plenty of other speaking engagements lined up.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, but I really appreciate you coming on. It was a great conversation, and I think people got to hear probably a different side of some of you that they haven't experienced, although you are very open and talkative on your show. So maybe they've already heard all the
Hopefully.
stories, but
Yeah.
either way, I appreciate you coming on and giving us some of your time and just getting to know you a little bit more. And yeah, it's been a good one.
Yeah. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, and also thank you guys in the chat. I've been trying to keep up with the comments. You know how I do. It's not. I'm not very good at multitasking, so I'm sure I missed some of your questions. Oh, before I let you go, I do have to
Yeah,
ask you the one question that we got on one of the tweets I sent out late last night.
yeah, okay, yeah.
Um, somebody Ben Crypto wanted to know what are some of the best game titles you've played from your childhood till now?
Yeah. Okay. So I saw this question come up, and the first thing that I thought was it is and it isn't true, but I really loved on Super Nintendo, they made a compilation Super Mario All Stars and World, where all of the original Mario games were put together,
Yeah,
right?
yep.
I really, really like that compilation, except for the original Mario that's in there. Because on the original Mario, I really, really liked showing people how to glitch and get into world -1.
I remember doing that too. I cannot actually remember how to do it though, but
Yeah,
I do
I,
remember
I
doing that.
like off the top of my head, I could still tell you how to do it. In World 1, 2, you go down to the pipe where you would normally like you want to walk over the roof, right,
Uh-huh.
to get to
Uh-huh.
like the secret pipes. But instead of doing that, you go down like you failed at that jump or whatever, and you can break the third brick over, and then you go over to the end of the green pipe, and you crouch while jumping. So your character's real short, and they jump, and they'll collide with the physics of those blocks and go through the
And go
wall,
through it.
and it doesn't like spawn the actual level, so it doesn't matter which pipe you go into, you're just going to go into the first level they designed, the default level. It's not actually -1, it's just nothing -1, right? And that happens to be the water level, and you can't beat it. You get to the end where you would normally beat it, and it just sends you back to the beginning. The game is glitched and you can't do anything.
Yep.
But yeah, like I beat the original Mario in like 8 minutes the first time I ever beat it, and then I beat it in like 5 minutes on like the ultra hard difficulty right after that. And I didn't beat that game until I was like 20, but I just had a lot of fun playing that. And I don't like love platformers, but that one probably stands out to me as the one that like I could still play it today and I would have a good time.
Yeah. I I kind of agree with that sentiment that like that it's something about that game that you could play it now and still have fun, and they definitely crushed it. Um, there's not a lot of games like that even nowadays that I can play and enjoy as much as a good old Mario session. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's I I'll take that as a solid answer, and that's the only one. And I'm gonna make him watch the entire replay to get the answer. But yeah.
Love it.
So like I said, I appreciate you coming on, and we'll wrap it up right there with that. But it's been a blast getting to know you a little bit better, and hopefully we continue to stay in touch. I'm sure we will
Yeah,
throughout the rest of NFT life. So
absolutely.
with that, thank you guys in the chat for hanging out, and we will catch you guys on the next stream. Peace.
All right. Bye.